This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Live tonight from the virtual Dover International Speedway, LSR TV is happy to say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to our continuing coverage of the 2019 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. Happy that you're with us, as always, right here on your home for sim racing and the iRacing Esports Network, where we get set to go round of 12 racing as the playoffs continue right here on a Monday night. As always, myself, Evan Pasoko, with Justin Prince, and our producer, Randy Channeth, bringing us to you this evening. And Justin, we come off of a very historic race just 1 week ago. Connor Horde, first ever win on the new Roval in series history. It also means that we took our playoff field down from 16 to 12 as we get set to dance with the Monster Mile.
Yes, indeed, and it's going to be a tough track to try and battle with. As you see with the standings, all the wins from the last round cross over to the round of 12. However, the points from the regular season do not count for the bonus points for the round of 12. So everyone that didn't get a win in the opening round of this year's postseason are now dead even. Guys like Cadell, who won the sprint race here at Dover, well, amongst those drivers. So there's a lot of pressure again to make sure you don't make any mistakes, especially with Talladega in the next round.
And if we had to select a big three, if you would, for this series, no doubt it would be Fridas, Jacoby, and Horde, most likely based on the stats. You're right, you mentioned those 3 bonus points for all of those race wins in the round of 12. It's a nice little bit of a bump, don't get me wrong, but you want to talk about the amount of race wins that some of those guys racked up in a regular season. They went into the round of 16, Justin, with a huge advantage. You'll still see that kind of advantage in the Monster Energy Cup Series with playoff points being a factor, but not here in this Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. So I think the stakes are that much higher coming into tonight. Dover, a place where you can find problems, but most importantly, Talladega next week. 3 points is minuscule compared to the 30 plus that some of those top competitors went into the last round with. We already saw some surprise eliminations with McClendon, Brotherton, Jones, and Fredericks failing to make the cut and being sent home. If I am anybody on that list, even Fridas, for all that's happened in the previous some 26 weeks of this season, I cannot feel very comfortable until I get this race underway and get some points.
Absolutely. If you're any of the drivers in the field, you want to get a win tonight. You don't want to risk going into Talladega not locked in or in a rough point situation, because anything could happen, just like in real life. So a lot of these drivers will be pushing and pushing hard, I think, to try and get this victory today at a track where, with the downforce levels and the 750 horsepower back for the mile circuit, we're going to see these drivers flying around this racetrack.
You mentioned Cadell getting that race win earlier in the season, coming back at the start of May. He could certainly be set to gain a lot from a trip to victory lane this evening. Again, you saw on the grid there, technically he was down in the gray just based on the rankings as they came out of that prior round. In reality, though, again, it's everybody tied and just those 3 drivers at the top of the board with that small advantage. To talk a little bit more about this night specifically, as the 5-minute qualifying session gets set to draw to a close, we'll go trackside in just a moment. The Monster Mile is always a fun racetrack to go to, but again, it is drives very differently, has driven differently with this package than we've ever seen it before. Incredible speed in the corners, but it does make it difficult to pass. So we'll see how these drivers navigate what's going to be a 150 lap contest.
Especially when you think about the aero push, it's hard to stay within half a second of a driver unless you're very careful on the tires and try and be careful of your lines, whether it's ways to ramp down the racetrack to get clean air, or whether it's pressurizing somebody into a mistake in front. It's going to be an interesting one, that's for sure, on this very hot racetrack.
And with all of that being said, the qualifying session has drawn to a close, so let's go trackside and take a look at tonight's LSR TV starting grid. Pole position in this one going to go to one of those race winners from the previous round, Connor Horde, best of them all, a 22.545 is the benchmark, and he will start on pole position for this Monster Mile 150. Daniel Eberhardt on the outside of the front row will start in second position. Brett McBride will roll from third on the grid tonight behind the wheel of the number 5 machine. He's got Brian Chambliss to his outside starting in fourth, and Andrew Friedrich within striking distance. He'll be inside of row 3 starting in fifth.
Skylar Shackelford starts in 6th position tonight on the outside of row number 3. Behind them, though, will be Shane Parrish with a good qualified lap in a 22.622 alongside Kyle Kamer. Dylan C. Jones will be in the midst of the pack to start things off tonight in 9th, while Jason Jacoby, who had a strong run in the spring at Dover, rounds out the top 10 in qualifying.
And just outside of there, 11th position, you'll find Thomas J. George, David Washington alongside him in row 6, starting in 12th. Jeremy E. Miller was the best earlier in practice, but he's got some work to do, as he'll be 13th on the grid. Scott McClendon starts 14th, and Blake O'Connell, P15.
RJ Williams all the way back in 16th spot in the 22.7s. Behind him will be Eric Stanford, the 19 machine. Anthony Fredericks is Rockstar. Chevrolet Camaro starts 18th with Sean Kalis and Matt Miller rounding out the top 20.
And continuing on through for the final couple of cars that did take times in the qualifying session, Caleb Weekly will start 21st, Scott Brotherton 22nd, and John Fowler in 23rd was the last to take a ring around during qualifying, so provisionals will be dished out to Jonathan Cadell, who starts 24th, Andrew T. Jones in 25th, with Jeremy Bazemore and Todd Novosad through your 27 car starting grid tonight from Dover. Let's talk more about the Monster Mile as we get set to pace. Track distance a mile in length, but there's 24 degrees of banking and a lot of room is going to what will be defining this race.
And don't forget, this isn't just regular old asphalt, this is concrete, which means these are going to be this track is going to be very abrasive on the tires. A lot of slipping and sliding, especially on the exits. Some drivers might even push up all the way into the wall. It's a very tough track to get a hold of, and that can mean a lot of potential attrition and a lot of drivers being collected by Miles the Monster.
And nowhere to hide from him either. You got a ball right on your outside and not much runoff room down low. Problems could really multiply themselves here very quickly. Again, our championship hopefuls have been whittled down from 16 to 12. And we're happy that you're with us at LSR TV and the iRacing Sports Network as we say, let's go racing from the Monster Mile. Green flag in the air for the round of 12, and it is the 24 car on the inside of Connor Horn. A lot of tire spin. Eberhardt will lead the race to turn 1.
And a lot of tire spin as to be expected when you start on the front stretch. Jacoby, though, already loose. Able to save it, though, as he'll lose multiple spots.
Lost a lot of speed on the inside line. A lot of cars going to get up and around him. George, one of them, the 23, and Jeremy E. Miller, another. So as they cycle themselves out towards the back, you see Jacoby still falling backwards. Those playout drivers going to be identified by those red windshield banners and spoilers. A battle for the race lead is on. Horn tried to look to the inside of Eberhardt that last lap, couldn't get the spot, and Eberhardt gets about a 2-car length buffer to work with. We'll see how quick it takes for the 24 machine to get right back on him.
Yeah, we've seen he had a lot of wheel spin on the bottom side to start this race. Well, Eberhardt was able to be a bit more careful on the throttle, time it up, make sure he didn't just slam it down where it would go from bogging down to high speeds all the way to the top of the rev limiter. For Horn, it's going to take a long while, I think, though, to set this up because he's already got the dirty air of the 90 he's going to have to deal with right here. It's going to potentially even take up to 20 laps to set something up.
And that's why that move off at the start was important. You mentioned the concrete surface here at Dover International Speedway. That was a change that was effected in 1995 after it was an asphalt surface for nearly 25 years prior to that, and that makes it so difficult for these cars to get off and underway. We saw it in the drop of the green flag. You will see that on every single restart as this night goes on. But there's a dive to the inside for the race lead as they're side by side in the pack as well. Horn finally got the nose on the 90 car, but was not able to make it stick. And we'll see if he tries again now into turn number 3, again getting the positioning, but not able to get all the way on through. And with the 12 of Shackelford closing, it's a three-way fight for the race lead. Here goes Horn.
And keep an eye on the line that you've seen there. He's diving it down to the bottom side to try and get the run down the banking. His teammate not giving him too much slack on that top side, but really when you have dirty air to deal with, try and bank it down, come back down the racetrack, and come down the bottom off the corner. Shackelford and his teammate both fighting. Side by side for second position still. Shackelford still forcing Horn down the bottom side. Andrew Freenosh now joins the battle. Freenosh started in the 5th position. Quickly made quick work of McBride already, trying to make quick work of Connor Horn, who's forced down to 3rd. Top 4 currently single file, separated by half a second on the racetrack. Gap to 5th spot already, 7/10 of a second. Eberhardt trying to take advantage of the clean air, hoping that the 2 teammates behind him fight in 3 and 4. Shackelford trying to charge the corners hard, trying to charge the exits harder, can't get the run quite yet, but Freenosh tries to get the run down to the bottom side for 3rd position. Just can't get anything all set up here with the dirty air at the moment. Any of these drivers in this grouping approaching 10 laps into the race so far. Shackelford and Horn currently still trying to ramp it down the racetrack at the moment. Eberhardt trying to run the bottom side. Some drivers describe, while not as evident as seen in last year's drafting package, the attempt to double diamond the corner. Try and go to the bottom of the entry, go to the bottom of the exit, and slide up for the apex. Eberhardt slides up the entry, ramps it down off of turn 4's banking to be able to try and get the extra run down the front stretch here, Evan. These top 4 cars all very close here, even with the dirty air. They're able to keep within a couple of car lengths of each other. In some races, drivers have had to separate as much as half a second before they can still start to reel each other back in.
And it goes to show you that a place like Dover still allows itself to be open to some racing, but you don't see drivers really spreading those lanes again so very early in this race now. With only 11 laps complete that time at a start-finish line, you really can't be pushing up to a 2nd and a 3rd lane. Shackelford is going to continue to try to peek at the inside of Eberhardt in that battle for the race lead. Of course, we've seen attempts come to go by the likes of some of these other drivers up front. That 24 Horn tried repeatedly, so maybe the outside is the best way to go, and that's why Eberhardt continues to leave that lane on the inside open, because he knows that that's exactly where he wants to be.
It's exactly where he wants to be. In fact, some drivers have felt like if they get tight on the bottom side, just try and run up the corner, then ramp it down on the exit. That can gain you some time back and try and get clean air. I'm surprised none of these drivers, though, have tried changing the lines up, especially more so in turn 3 entry, to get some clean air. It's causing them, I think, really to not be able to gain anything or be able to get a run on each other with having to essentially be tight behind one another to try and then have to get off the throttle to come off the corner exit.
And you can see these top 4 cars have created a train away for the rest of the field. Brett McBride in the number 5 position. Brought back 2 for the get-go. He's in his own little fight. Chambliss Jones and company about what you're seeing up front. Equidistance with a couple of cars stuck on each other. But you're on board with Freenosh. 4th car in line. He's the caboose here. You can see on that wide shot. Big gap, 4th on the back. And then another pack of cars is Freenosh now hunting to try to find a way on the inside of Connor Horn. Unable to establish the position, though, quite yet.
Not quite yet, indeed, right now. Remember, Shackelford was able to get to the high side But it's going to be difficult now that the tires are starting to see some more and more wear at this point. 16 coming in at the end of 16 laps rather already. But Eberhard at this point has that advantage of clean air where he doesn't have to deal with any aero push of the drivers around him or anyone in front. He can run essentially the line he wants to. These drivers behind, they're struggling on corner exit because of the aero push.
And that's where you need to be good, obviously, if you're going to complete a pass. So that's what makes it such a challenge. And it would explain by drivers like with the 12 car here, looking to the inside, and one can establish the position early, look to set something up, but are just unable to get that second part of it, and that is to run off the corner. That would really give this 90 of Eberhard a run for his money. Now the 12 goes in on the bumper. Right to Eberhard that time in 3 was Shackelford in second, still trailed by Horn in third, and Freenage in P4. Despite the fact that they're all fighting for the race lead, they continue to add more time on the rest of the field.
Yeah, right now in the 24-2 specifically, the fastest lap was actually by Dylan C. Jones. That's in clean air at the moment, just railing in the 5, but they've been near identical lanes just about, identical lap times. A couple of them are trying to go a little bit higher on the entries, some of them trying to be tighter on some of the entries and carrying a bit more speed, but they just can't get anything to go yet. Horn looking like he's got something going, though. Shackelford made a mistake for a split second off of 2. Nothing he can take advantage yet in this top 4 battle as they now check up behind the 12.
A little bit of a slowdown behind the 12, but again, Shackelford has been the one that's taken the lead on this effort. The 24 Machine Horn was there after starting this race from pole position, but not getting off and away for the get-go. Eberhard made that pass to the outside right at the drop of the green flag when the 24 couldn't get the power down. And since then, it has been all the 90, but Shackelford was able to make the move outside around the 24. And Horn dove to the inside to try to make a play for the lead in his own right. So how long do these drivers sit back, allowing Shackelford to take his couple of swings before they decide that it's time to get back up there for the first time in some time? Eberhard pulling some distance. The 24 peeks to the inside. He's got to be careful with the 88 car behind him there to not accidentally lose another spot while trying to gain one.
Yeah, Horn, seen an opening, was saying, we need to do something here because no one's able to make a pass, but Shackelford seems intent on holding on to the second spot or even trying to get the fight for third to break up because there's a chance they can pull a gap this group in half if they fight for that position by at least a couple tenths of a second. So right now, Shackelford, I think, feels just comfortable. Just keep Eberhard within range, think about the big picture, and keep thinking about the fuel mileage. The fuel window for this race is a 2-stopper to keep an eye on. About 60 to 65 laps on the fuel before you duck down to that very difficult pit lane.
And that puts you just about 10 laps shy of trying to stretch it for the 1 stop, which means that you're going obviously a lot less than the maximum on fuel for each of what would be 50 lap stints if we see drivers decide to stick with that 2-stop strategy. The good news is, though, for the Monster Mile being one of the more intimidating racetracks on the calendar, 25 laps into this race, all 27 cars who started are still in it on the lead lap, as here we go for second. Horn on the inside of the 12, and he will take it back. So Connor Horn back around teammate Skylar Shackelford. He gets back second position, and Freenage wants to go for the twofer. He's now on the inside, side by side. You see the 12 fights him up hard. Oh, there's contact. They're going to get into each other off in the corner, and now more contact in turn 3. They're going to beat and bang all the way down this straightaway. And I was going to ask Justin, is that 12 going to be more aggressive with Freenage than he was with his teammate? And that was the answer, although it looked like the 88 squeezed him up a little bit.
I don't think there was any intention there to make contact. Shackelford let Horn go knowing he was a little bit quicker. It's just down that backstretch. It is a bit bumpy. There's the chance you can make contact in those tight corners. And that's what they did. Then Shackelford, I don't think he intended, of course, to get back down to the 88. He just tried to keep saving pin bond off that wall and ends up having significant damage now on both sides of the car. Freenage only got minor damage but lost touch to the lead group. And that's now set up a battle now for P3 with Dylan C. Jones, who has been outside of the lead group, the fastest car on the racetrack.
And this is big picture when you look at the fact that the damage on the 12 looks pretty severe. Here's Fridas now at a bumper again. And I'm sure neither of these drivers are happy with one another. When you look at the championship picture, Skylar Shackelford was able to qualify in pretty easily as the number 8 seed. Of course, Fridas with that win. Both of these drivers trying to get their round of 12 kicked off in the best way they can. I think the 88 machine gets away with less damage, but if that 12 or the 88 severe damage long on this run, they're going to lose significant time without a caution flag. That's why you saw the gap back from that top floor breakaway completely diminish itself. And I think Red McBride, Brian Chambliss, the cars that have gone up on him are probably faster than both of them, as again, the 88 looks to the bottom. So now we'll see how well these drivers can make these cars last for the best of this run. You can see how that onboard shot all the left-hand damage on the 12 Chevy.
Yeah, he's going to be the worst of the two, but the problem is for Frenosh to even make this pass now. You seen that right rear curled up? With that significant amount of damage to that quarter panel, it's going to make it loose and very loose off the corner exit. That's why he is bobbling so much now on that bottom side, more so than when he was trying to make the attack earlier. Again, getting a bit loose, and now it's forcing side by side behind him.
Side by side, a few rows deep. It is the 5 car. McBride on the inside of Chambliss, Parrish, Washington, others lining up to get into the fight as well. The 88 and the 12 are deadlocked side by side again. Fridas, faster car, but on the inside, took him a few laps. He does get through it. Fridas now back to P4. Shackelford will counter, diving to back down now to the inside in turns 1 and 2. But that car will not stick down low, and Fridas has done it. Here they come, though. Chambliss around on the outside. The 5 of McBride also. That counter to the bottom actually cost Shackelford more than maybe just staying in line with him.
Yeah, as soon as the revolving door opened up on that top side, everybody knew they had to go and go immediately. Now, if you're everybody else behind, Parrish, Washington, Jacoby, McClendon that are near bumper to bumper, you need to get a run and get Shackelford off his preferred line and quick, or else you're going to lose reach of McBride and Chambliss. Already, McClendon moving all the way to the top, trying to use something seen in the real-world race, run it off the banking. Got a huge shot of momentum at the end of the grouping, but not enough to make a move. Nobody able to make the pass yet, though. Somebody's got to do something.
Certainly drivers are starting to get impatient as well at this part in the run. 35 laps in. Some drivers may still have a little bit more in their equipment left than others, and they're using that to their advantage. Battle up front for the race lead. Connor Horn in the 24 once more. He gets back and around Everhart for the top position. Was able to make the pass in 3 and 4 on the bottom. Seemed unlikely for how many times drivers struggled to make a move down there, but it was over with just as soon as it began. And your pole sitter, he'll actually finally get to lead his first couple of laps.
He had a lap about 1/10 of a second quicker than Eberhard before getting the run, and basically forced him up higher than he wanted to be on the top line. And Eberhard basically bobbled on the apex off. That allowed Horn to get the momentum, and now Horn's got the clean air. And remember, he also had a very strong car back in the spring race. He ended up leading 95 laps before finishing second in that race.
But of course, these races don't always end in the fashion that maybe the best cars would like. And we'll see if Connor Horn now going to be able to continue this momentum. Once he got around Everhart, that gap has already started to stretch out quite a bit. Still a lot of fighting throughout the pack. Skylar Shackelford still has that anchor hanging off of the back bumper of that number 12 machine. And next on deck is a trio of some hungry race car drivers. David Washington, the 3 of Jason Jacoby, the 18 of Shane Parrish, all in line. In fact, Jacoby tried to get to the inside of Washington. Well, he was hunting on the 12 car of Shackelford. So these drivers not in agreement on who gets to go first. We're going to go 3 wide down the back straightaway as Jacoby tried the very inside, and he may be the big winner in the center of the quarter. Shackelford's going to back out of it, and Washington stayed in the gas in the center. The 3 and the 98 car putting on a show. This battle for 7.
Well, that's a way to try and get by someone with damage. Jacoby way way bold on that mess. He nearly caused an incident on that, but it worked to get by Shackelford. And now he's got that preferred line. The problem is, though, Washington trying to pinch him down here to try and not lose the 7th position. Already, they've gained 3-4 car lengths on Shackelford in the battle behind him.
And you can see all of the side-by-side action so far. It's been really good tonight from Dover. Maybe a lot more passing than I would have anticipated off of the get-go with these packs of cars. It is difficult to complete the passes, but again, with this package, keeps these cars together, and these drivers, 41 laps into this race, are making the most of it. Again, buying into the two-stop strategy call, we'd see drivers down pit road in 10 laps or so as race leader Daniel Eberhardt nearly fenced it that last time, but back straightaway, Justin, did these drivers start to back off a little bit, get set for pit stops? Because the way it looks now, look at this big pack of 7-8 cars. They don't look like they're backing off anytime soon.
Yeah, again, the max you can go is about 65-ish laps on fuel, but the fall off in the race is important to note. Already 2 seconds of fall off on this racetrack, and the track temp has been going higher and higher, and the rubber is going to make it more difficult to maintain the grip. But with the fixed set, could make it a bit easier for these cars to rotate. So it's going to be curious to see who elects to prioritize the tires over the fuel mileage in this race, as now you see McClendon being shuffled along on the bottom side while Thomas J. George takes the top side.
And it's that 50-motor machine down on the bottom of the racetrack. Donna George to his right-hand side with the speed advantage down the back straightaway and into turn number 3. Look at the 51 push up, and he's awfully close to the quarter panel. Donna Thomas George, maybe a little bit of contact that time at turn 4, but it is good enough to get the Milwaukee Tools Chevy on through. So George now retaking the number 12 spot. It's the 8-car Kamer also on deck. Kyle Kamer advanced out of the round of 16 as the number 9 seed. So needs to obviously keep up with that and need to improve a little bit if he wants to make the next set of eliminations. And he's looking to gain his 2nd spot of the night, and he'll do it, getting around McClendon.
And should note, we mentioned expecting drivers, especially in the front of the field, coming maybe around lap 50. We have just seen a couple of the drivers in the back half of the field duck down, so the pit window is open for drivers going early here already on lap 4. Already coming in on lap 45. It is a tough pit entry. Keep an eye, though, to try and get down to speed on. It's so easy for these drivers, especially if you're in these kind of a groups, to end up locking up your tires and nearly speeding your way to the entry or slamming into the barrels.
And you could decide to make it a lot easier on yourself by just diving down to the apron on the back straightaway, going into 3, but of course you're not going to be maximizing time on pit road. And as I mentioned, with all 27 cars who started this race still in it, that could be critical seconds in determining not only where you end up after the pit stop, but of course what battles you might be stuck in, and could have a big effect on where you finish this race at 102 laps from now.
Yeah, the difference can be as much as half a second to about a full second or two, depending on where you enter the pit lane. If you go from the banking and try and arc it down in turn 3, then onto the apron and try and speed and just get inside the speed limit inside sector 1 of the pit lane, you can end up gaining some time from that. If you end up taking that apron line, you'll lose a fair amount of time. These drivers, though, losing themselves a ton of time, 25-second lap times in this fight for position.
This is a part of it, as these drivers now find themselves almost, in fact, now more than 10 seconds off, and Shackelford is all kinds of out of control, but the 12th car is going to hang on to it. Shackelford, for the 2nd time tonight, nearly finds himself in trouble as he pinched up, but the 8-car Kamer got all kinds of out of shape.
Yeah, that was near a disaster. Cars were coming down to the lead group just as that was happening. Let's take a look at this again. Trying to hold on to the bottom side again. George with the preferred line, but ends up having a little bit of contact from behind. Gets bobbled around, but a massive save to make sure he doesn't come across the multiple others trying to get around to the top side. That 12 car needs to find a way to get to the pits, and quick at this point, because the tires are shot and the car is damaged. By the way, Freenosh already in and out of his pit lane. We've also seen Horn already take his pit stop. And
that's right on the money. Yeah, lap 50. So these drivers aren't going to split it into thirds and go for the two-stop strategy. The problem for Shackelford is I expect him to be down shortly also, is not only does he need to get new tires on the car, you mentioned their shot, but he needs to get that car repaired and under green flag conditions. Do you sit down there and get this car fixed up under the caution flag? You can drop to the back and it makes a big difference. But under green, you can't sit down there for 5-10 seconds. It's half a lap.
You can't get the damage fixed. You're going to have to hope that once you get out that you get a caution flag and hope you're still in the lead lap. But if we can show what just happened to Eric Stanford on his pit entry, it would show exactly the difficulty when it comes to the track, because he locked it up and nosed his right front into the outside wall. If you look in the pit entry, he's right now on the backstretch on this shot. Looking pretty good, has some clean space to try and get onto the racetrack. Able to get down onto the apron, you mentioned there, trying to take the conservative lane, goes up the apron, but then tries to keep the speed up, loses the back tires, locks it up, and says hello to the Hershey sign, adds a slight touch of right side damage. Could have been much more worse, but that's going to lose him some time.
It caused him time, and of course the damage may hurt him also. You saw him there finishing his pit stop, but blended back up into traffic. Through all of this, Daniel Eberhardt in the 90 car, steadfast as your race leader in the Bernardi machine. He leads atop Dylan C. Jones in the 03, Chambliss, McBride, and George along third, fourth, and fifth position. You would have to wait for Connor Horn if you're looking for things to cycle back through in the picture. He's still a lap down in 15th, so handful of drivers trying to push this a little bit.
Yeah, and you can see how much of a pace difference that was right there. 30-mile-an-hour difference between fresh tires and old dry tires off the corner exit alone. And the more Eberhardt stays out, the more he's going to lose time. And on top of that, Dylan C. Jones in all of this, as the pit window was opening up, reeled in that 90 car, and quick. So Dylan C. Jones trying to follow the strategy of his teammate up here and stay as long as they can to have fresher tires. They can gain some it back up, but they're going to be fairly behind Connor Horn.
And of course, this is all a play for different strategies, and we've seen it this season, especially with the dominance of the likes of Friedage, and even in that subcategory, the dominant cars, the likes of Horn, and for Jason Jacoby as well, drivers who have multiple race wins this season. When you see fast race cars, you might try to mix up the strategy just a little bit, do anything you can to differentiate yourself, and these drivers up front with Horn still being scored a lap down, they catch a lucky yellow, could really help them out. So that could be the idea behind a lot of these moves, especially for the likes of RJ Williams and Anthony Fredericks, the Jonathan Caddells and Jeremy Bazemores, who started outside of the top 20, but are about top 10 cars right now in the running order just because of where we sit in this pit cycle.
But the thing is, you have to think about this too. The more they stay out, the less cars that are going to be on the lead lap until they can catch back up to these machines. Horn is still a lap down, for example. So they're making a play to not only get fresher tires once they get out of the pit lane, if they get a caution flag of drivers trying to get through older tires and end up having an incident, these two drivers would be at the front of the field, and with how many laps a lot of the cars on fresher tires have already turned, a lot of them might not be able to even realistically take the wave.
And we'll see how all of this shakes out. Of course, that's a big if in this strategy. A lot of the time, you'd like to make a call where your fate is in your own hands, and you can just go ahead and make your decision, stick with it, and worry about yourself. Luck does happen. Stranger things have happened, and we've seen drivers win from some of these gambles. But the way that this race has gone, look at Connor Horn now. He'll, in fact, catch up to your race leader and make him look like he's standing still. Fresh tires versus old tires as the 24 gets on by. And you'll see that 90 car fade through the rear window of the 24. So Connor Horn wanting to cycle back through. He would reassume the race lead when all of this completes itself. Friedage Jones second, third. Tentatively, with Andrew T. Jones actually being scored in that number 15 position, but I don't believe he has completed his service yet, so he kind of sandwiches himself in between Friedage and Jason Jacoby. But I mentioned off at the top, Justin, when you were talking about fuel number 65 is about the max. Well, it's only 10 away from trying to make it halfway home. Could drivers possibly be coasting into the quarters a lot more than getting onto the brakes, trying to make it to halfway distance? Because already 15 laps removed really for when pit stop started for those realistically on the two-stop call.
It's very difficult to save fuel here at Dover, but it is somewhat possible. I don't know if it's realistic with how the race might go here today, but they can clutch and coast to be able to save at least 4 or 5 laps, maybe. About 15? Don't know. It doesn't sound like that's what they've been doing at the moment. But right now, they are still able to still push it, though, as they're letting the car roll through the center of the turn. We'll have to wait and see here because they're coming up to 85 laps to go and still have to come in to serve. The top 11, in fact, yet to come in for pit stops.
We wait to see how long they could go. 9 more would be their own magic number. Pit at lap number 75, and if you can go that far, then you could make the extra 75 to this 150 lap scheduled distance at Dover International Speedway. So far, caution-free. I would not say incident-free, although we really haven't had any wrecks that didn't lead to a yellow. Just a lot of beating and banging. Do want to update you that Caleb Weekly has gone behind the wall, the number 10 car. The first and so far only DNF in this race after he made some contact into the inside ball on his own and decided to park it for the evening as he was already a car in the 20s. That's kind of what's happening throughout the field, but a big number of cars still yet to come down pit road. It's making for quite the scenes for the likes of the 24 Horn, Ferdinand, and the other half who has pitted, trying to make around all of these slow cars.
Now, if we can head back towards Horn for a split second, he actually rammed the back end of Jonathan Goodell trying to pass by him. So these cars are really pushing it here, not just on the fuel mileage, but pushing how they manage the traffic. Now Andrew T. Jones stays up on the top side, Horn with the fresher tires, able to get the better run. Already reeling in Shackelford here, has that damaged car. He's trying to stretch it right now and hope for a caution flag to stay on the lead lap, because at this point, he would be laps down, quickly gets on by, so Horn quickly moving up the leaderboard.
And that's exactly what he wants to see, but of course, in the grand scheme of things, he really doesn't care about all these cars. He's really just trying to stay ahead of the next car on the same strategy as him, and that puts him still a healthy margin of, I think, more than 5 seconds ahead of Andrew Ferdinand. So for the opening parts of this race where we saw those top 4 cars absolutely on top of each other, all of a sudden you get some contact that spreads folks out, and a cycle of the green flag pit stops, and Connor Horn has maximized everything to the T and is in a very good position to end up putting himself in a spot to win this race. But it looks like now that we can say with pretty certainty that Eberhard up front, and even some of the cars behind him, Jones and Chambliss, drivers who have stuff still riding in the points, are committed to go for the one-stopper. There's no guarantee that 2 stops is the better call. It's almost a 50-50 split. I think slightly more cars going for the 2-stopper, but this isn't one of those where it's a few stray cars who decide to go against the current. It is almost a split call here on what everybody thinks is going to be the race-winning decision. Keep in mind that I think both of these different strategies hinge on the fact that the race needs to stay green.
Oh, and hold on a second. Dylan C. Jones just pit coming to lap 72 here. So if he is going to be committing to this one-stopper here, he might have to save a couple laps here. So these drivers have done a heck of a job to be able to get themselves into the realistic spot of a one-stopper here, but it's still a very much big gamble here. You mentioned it's hard to see how each of the strategies are going to go in, but as the leader ducks down, it's going to, I don't know if they can realistically make it. They only went to 73. For Eberhard, for example.
And it's just about 2 laps shy from your number, but you have to remember, because you're 2 laps shy on this run, that is going to double for the next run. You would have to go 4 to 5 laps further on fuel than you were able to now. You mentioned that it was possible, but very difficult. If these drivers cannot hit lap number 75, I don't think they're going to be able to go the distance and fight for the race win on that strategy call. So with those top two dropping out, it is now Rhett McBride assuming the race lead in this one, and the stakes are admittedly a little bit higher for a playoff driver adjusted on this call than it was for the likes of Everhart, who are not funning for this 2019 championship. McBride down pit road, right on the money, halfway home. The 5 car made as far as he needed to.
So he can realistically make it, I think, at this point. At that 75 marker, everybody else now that's been able to get to it already ducking in for the one stopper here, but there's still the chance of, say, Yellow Flag comes out, this throws all the strategy out the window, so to speak. But right now, Horn back up to the race lead as everyone's down the pit lane. Freenosh cycled to second. Jacoby currently cycled to third in the pit window.
With the 5 car in, no doubt his call is going to be for 4 tires and fuel. We'll wait just a few moments for all of this to completely cycle through before we take a look top to bottom at our Ford Entertainment Group Midway race break. But tentatively, there's only 8 cars scored on the lead lap now. It's about 3/4 of the field that was there when the first cycle of pit stops began nearly 30 laps ago to this point. And with Connor Horn now cycling back to the top position, it puts a bow tie on that exchange for Freenosh. We get the first real look at a 6.9 second margin, now 7 seconds to the 24 machine. Connor Horn was good in practice and, as noted, the best in qualifying, but man, he's really turned it up a notch on this second run.
Yeah, he's handled this window perfectly. 7 seconds the gap already to Freenosh, who still has to deal with a bit of traffic here and there. Horn, he's got a lot of clean air to try and grow this gap. So the hope for Freenosh, I think, is hope that Horn gets caught up in some traffic, has trouble managing someone to be able to reel the gap back in, and hope that he can handle the traffic a bit more better, because it's going to take a heck of a drive to reel him back in. Currently, Horn in the 24.5s, while Freenosh is running the 24.6s.
And we'll watch those. Of course, you can see the intervals as well at the top of your screen, but let's take a look at our Ford Entertainment Group Midway race break as we just finish up with pit stops, and we're about 20 laps away from the second stop for the cars on the 2 stoppers. But as we sit right now, Connor Horn is your race leader. His advantage is more than 7 seconds atop Andrew Freenosh, who scored in P2. He's got a 5-second advantage over Jason Jacoby in third, who also leads atop a battle for fourth, with Shane Parrish in that spot and David Washington hunting from fifth. He'll actually dive to the inside and take it away from him. Eric Stanford behind them in 6th as the last car on the lead lap, with Blake O'Connell first car lap down, scored in 7th position. Daniel Everhart on the charge, and the flag bearer for the one-stop strategy, baby, is P8. Dylan Jones behind him scored 9th, and Scott McClendon rounds out your top 10.
11th spot is Matt Miller. He opened up the pit window, pitting on lap 45. Right now in front of R.J. Williams on the leaderboard. The next driver 1 lap down is Brian Chambliss, who started in 4th position, is amongst the R drivers trying the one-stopper, along with Rhett McBride, who got jumped by that 45 car. Skylar Shackelford with fresh rubber now on his car, but still beating up at the tail end of the 1 lap downers. He started in 6th position. Behind them is Scott Brotherton in P16. 17th is Fredericks. 18th, Kamer. 19th, Novosad. 20th is Cadell. But there was a crash with the 34, it looks like, who is outside, who is around that window.
At 34 to Novosad, you just mentioned, was 19th, got sideways at a turn 2, smacked the wall, and you can see he's brought the car down to pit lane, so it's going to shuffle up the running order a little bit. You'll see the replay here for Novosad, so Cadell's going to assume the 19th position, and now Bazemore will round out your top 20. You'll see him get sideways off at 2, and again, not a lot of forgiveness, hits the wall. His night may be done. So 21st is now Andrew T. Jones, and Thomas George is 22nd. Kayla's 23rd. Novosad tentatively 24th, but he'll continue to fall further down the running order if he can't get back on track. Miller right now is behind him in 25th, with John Fowler behind the wall in 26th. And we mentioned the earlier retirement for Caleb Weekly in the number 10 car. He is 27th. And that is all the way at the back of the field. That's been a look top to bottom at your Ford Entertainment Group Midway Race Break. FEGPC has been serving the iRacing community with custom-built affordable computers specifically built and tuned for iRacing. Your PC will come with everything you need preloaded so you can get racing as soon as it hits your doorstep. Get yours today and join the 600-plus iRacers already enjoying a Ford Entertainment Group build. PCs to fit every budget from $540 and up. Go online to www.fegpc.net and mention code LSRTV10 to get your build quoted today. So through all of this now, and a little bit of excitement and drama with drivers crashing there through our Midway race break, we now find ourselves with a much clearer picture of the strategy. Connor Horn well out in front of the cars who are looking to go for the two-stop strategy, and that means that they're due down to the pit lane in about a dozen laps.
And this is getting absolutely interesting here. It's been a quick run too, Evan, so far. Basically a marathon sprint. 35 minutes was the distance to the halfway point. Just 35 minutes. But these drivers have got to be feeling a bit fatigued. No caution flags all race so far on a track that takes a lot of aggression, a lot of work to make sure you make these corners. Some of these drivers might be feeling a bit of aches in the wrists after the checkered flag in this battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th, for example.
Yeah, several battles going on the racetrack right now. You're on board with the David Washington as this group comes out of turns 3 and 4. Parrish is 4th, and Washington, the middle P5. Stanford, that third car in this group, in the number 6 spot, all fighting for position. So it's half of the lead lap cars actually in this one. And as I say that, Daniel Eberhardt with the fresher tires from pinning just shy to halfway has actually unlapped himself. So that number will slowly start to climb back up, the likes of Jones and other drivers as well. But also Rhett McBride was the only driver who actually made it to 75 in a fuel strategy. Will that be a difference maker in that second group of race cars? But enough separation that I think 4th, 5th, and 6th don't have to be sweating too much, but those cars certainly close enough to each other that any sort of a mistake and you can guarantee someone's going to be on you.
Thing is, though, a lot of the cars that are trying this one-stopper, I think, got close enough where, if need be, they can just try and save some fuel for a few laps, hold in the clutch, let it coast a little bit, and then they'll be okay. Since it is so tight, if it was, say, 5, 6, 7 laps they had to save, then I'd be hitting that panic button and thinking, why didn't I try the different strategy here? But right now, just got to keep on running your own race here, because a lot of these drivers, keep an eye on, still have to come down a second time since they're trying to split the race in thirds. That's going to be in about just 6 or 7 laps for now.
And they've stayed pretty committed to being right on the money there. And again, you can go a little bit shorter, a little bit longer. We learned that with drivers trying to stretch it to go for the one stop, that you're not restricted at all in that number 50 marker. But I mean, when you look at the intervals between your top 3 cars, I don't think it changing when you come down pit road by a handful of laps could be a difference maker. But a different story in this battle for 4th that continues to rage on, with Washington still all over Shane Parrish. Eric Stanford behind it, P6. But you got cars this tight on each other, I would not at all be shocked if Stanford dives down first, trying to get around these guys by getting on the fresh rubber just 1 lap sooner. So the first cars down to the pit lane actually may come from this group we're looking at.
Well, they are teammates, keeping up to mention those. So if they feel like they're getting held up, they'll let them know, and Parrish might let them by. But Matt Miller is now being used as a pick here by Parrish. This is going to break up this group a little bit, as Eberhardt has now caught them on the fresher rubber.
He has as well, and he's been navigating around lead lap cars. Dylan C. Jones has also unlapped himself as Jason Jacoby dives down to pit road. There's your undercut, lap number 95. He's going to be easily able to go the 55 laps to the distance, but certainly shorter than what you would expect that run to be. So just drivers trying to mix it up a little bit. Eberhardt also able to easily clear this group on track that continues to fight. It now becomes, though, with Jacoby coming down pit road, the fight for third as they'll bump up a spot on the scoring pylon.
Yeah, and all three of them are actually all the way up on top side here. Kamer, mind you, is on the fresher tires too. So I think they're just going to try and let on by that 8 machine. Stay out of the way of the fresher tire cars. Don't cause a ruckus by being in the way of the faster pace machines. As Eberhardt now has driven right by Parrish as that went on. It looks like Parrish just decided to let by the 90 knowing he was on fresher tires and didn't want to hold him up. Might see the same here with the 8.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of cars faster than him. Kyle Kamer next on deck. Then you'll see, the back end of this battle with Jones and other cars also seeing the Ford of Fredericks get around them. So these are all things that drivers have to keep in mind. And again, I think drivers making the smart decision to just err on the side of caution. Let drivers go and take it easy. No sense now 100 laps in.
Trouble turn 4. Shackelford nearly got into a major incident after Jeremy E. Miller, his teammate, him in the back end while Jacoby tried to go through 3 wide. That was a near 3-car incident between Miller, Shackelford, and Sean Kalist.
You'll see the replay here on board. There's Jacoby, the blue and black car on the outside. He's going to try to go 3 wide through the middle here. And what it does is it stacked the cars off to the inside, and there was the contact with Miller getting into the back of Shackelford. And those drivers getting squirrely. Shackelford actually took a secondary shot when he saved it by getting up into Kalist. Doesn't matter, though, and they stay green.
And that's where I thought we were going to see a car go around, was when Kalist actually got the second part of that shot in the rear end. But a heck of a save again in this race from the 23 car. But more drivers are pitting. Connor Horn's ducked down. Andrew Freenosh is coming out of the lane now.
And right on the money again almost. So these drivers on the 2-stop strategy going to make their final pit stop of the afternoon. And they are going to be set to go the distance. And now we'll find out what margin they're going to have back to the 1-stoppers. And if they're going to be able to make that happen with the tires and laps left on the board. And again, both of these strategies lend themselves to very easy calls. 4 tires, fuel for everybody down onto the pit lane as they cycle back out and to the race lead. Connor Horn now getting passed by Eberhardt. So the 90 machine, who's already made his one and only trip down to pit road, is good to go the distance. Daniel Eberhardt is going into turn number 3 now. You compare that to Connor Horn, who completes his final service. He is basically coming out of turn 4 right now, trying to catch up to the 90 machine. Not as far behind him as the 90 car, I think, would have liked.
Remember, he did pit on lap, I believe it was 72, coming towards 73 at the time. So we have to keep an eye here if he's going to be able to manage the fuel enough here and get to the finish. Wouldn't be surprised to not see him save here because there's still the chance of anything can happen. But right now, the gap to the cars on fresh tires, still 32 seconds between them and the 2-stopper lead net drivers.
And again, all of this is keeping in mind that the likes of Eberhardt and these other names, we're not necessarily sure they can go the distance. Again, the longest we've seen anybody go out of fuel tonight was McBride at 75. That's exactly the distance you need to make to go all the way. McBride split it in half. If he can do the same kind of run the second time, he should be good. But for these drivers who pitted at 72 and 73, they need to go in upwards of 76, 77 this time. That's a big jump. Again, 2 laps short on your first run. It means you need to go 4 laps longer than that on your second. So let's also watch these intervals to see if Eberhardt and these drivers save at all in the midst of all of this.
Right now, keep an eye on the time difference, too. The older rubber, currently 24.8 for a majority of the leaders around that ballpark. The cars that just pit are in the 23.3s at the moment, or 23.6s. But a fight is on for the net leaders of the 2-stoppers. This is going to help a bit. Freenosh and Jacoby fighting side by side.
This battle plays into it. You're only hurting each other as he's shot to the back end. Jason Jacoby into the 88 of Freenosh, but it is going to be without success as that 88 machine was able to get around him. And to be honest, I don't think Jacoby really thought he was going to get back on the 88 car with Freenosh flying up on him like that. Maybe just a shot to say, all right, I see you. You got the better car this time around. And now they're going to be on the flip side. Instead of, these 2-stop cars being passed by those who recently pitted on the 1-stop, they're now faster. So they have to work around traffic. That's Dylan Jones in the 03. Second place car on track. getting blown by these cars who were scored in 9th and 10th position. Connor Horn, meanwhile, again kind of leading this charge for the drivers on the two-stop strategy, has already made his way back to the lead lap. He is 18.2 seconds behind Daniel Eberhardt and was nearly 2 seconds faster than him that last lap. If those intervals remain anywhere near that, he should have plenty of time with 40 laps to go to come all the way from lap down to catch that 90 car if Eberhardt still can go the distance.
He's only half a track behind and closing in quick, but three-quarters of a track behind at 16 seconds. But he's only 4 seconds back of McBride, who is for sure good on fuel at the halfway point when he came down to pit. So I think he's going to get McBride. And the pace he's running is the fastest on the racetrack. If he keeps up this clip even with some of the fall off, as long as the tires don't equalize, or that doesn't happen, he's in a good spot. But this just about changed everything. How in the world was that a not a yellow?
Still no caution as Jeremy Miller found issues, and this is the worst case scenario. You'll get a second look at it here with the Miller fighting with Horn.
And we got
now the caution flag is out.
Kalis, in a second incident, was stopped on the middle of the racetrack. So let's take a look at the first one. This was involving Miller. Contact from his own teammate who runs up in the back end of him, turns him around. They stay green, however, because of the cushion. But the 43 of Sean Kalis ends up having the secondary crash. He ends up hitting the wall trying to let a bunch of people go, but runs too high off the exit and ends up hitting the inside wall and ricocheting into the middle of the racetrack. Stays there before bringing the tow truck to get the yellow flag. And now everything has been thrown out the window.
And Connor Horn's lucky that he got back to the lead lap. There's the incident again with Kalis, but I do want to note for those teammates, Jeremy Miller was really sideways on his own. That's why he was so far off the wall, and that's why Connor Horn was not expecting him to be there, and that's just really rotten timing for teammates. But now, doesn't matter what pit cycle strategy you were on, we got pit stops at lap 113, and Eberhardt's race lead will maintain. So Jones in, Chambliss, McBride, and Williams, your top five. Horn ends up P6 with Frenage, Cameron, and Jacoby, the only other drivers to have been able to get back to the lead lap. Everybody else going to have to stay out, look for a wave around as we get fuel and tires now, so everybody can go the distance for sure.
Fredericks does get the lucky dog, though, but man, that came at a very interesting time. Just 10 cars on the lead lap at the moment, and there was such a big advantage for the drivers trying that one stop that they are very likely going to come out with the lead here as long as they get back on the gas. The question is, do they elect to take some of the damage repair, or do they elect to take the track position? The top two don't have to worry about that. The top three, making the top five, already out of the way. Horn only it gets to 6th spot.
We get something out of it, and Frenage is sitting in the pit stall, so the 88 car may be getting some of that damage fixed. Again, we can only speculate based on the contact that we've seen him have over the course of the night. Don't think it would have been a speeding penalty coming into the pit lane, but he is sitting in there for quite some time.
Well, he did have that right rear quarter panel damage for one, which I definitely want to get fixed. But second, I think he just wants to make sure the car is at full optimal speed. There's only 10 cars on the lead lap that are going to be on fresh tires, not including any waiver rounds that will be on much older rubber. He has the luxury to get the damage repaired. He'll sacrifice the track position now, but he's been one of the quickest cars in the field when he has been able to have a good, clean race car. Now he's been able to get as much damage as he can repaired. He will still have some right rear damage, though.
You can only get it so patched up, and with the host of cars looking to get back to the lead lap, Bazemore and Stanford will stay out, and they'll actually get back to the lead lap totally, with the likes of a handful of other drivers opting maybe to just get the tires now and, you know, battle with the same cars that you would have been fighting with anyways, and try to get themselves back in this thing. Tons of cars in front of Eberhardt are all those wave-by drivers. It's about a half a dozen or so. McClendon, O'Connell, Shackelford, Jones, Bazemore, Stanford, Brotherton. So those are the drivers who want to get back into this. You'll see them get waved around the pace car when the lights go out on top of it. But, I mean, that's a big incident there for Shackelford. Not only was it with your teammate, and if there's one thing you want to do any given week, it is not get into an accident with your teammate. Of course, with no bonus points available to Skylar coming into this round and falling to P18, he may be teetering on the cut line as we head to Talladega next week if these results hold and the rest of the playoff drivers in front of him are able to get to the end without incident.
Not only that, but Jeremy Miller for that same organization who now has a bunch of the back-end damage with the yellow flag there, Evan. He's been having a horrific day today, and at one point, I think he had to jump out of the race car for an emergency, let the car roll in pit lane, in fact, for about 3-4 laps. That put Miller 5 laps down, and he's going to fall even more so laps down now as we get to 1 to go. Amongst the wave arounds, just Bazemore and Stanford get to the lead lap. A lot of the others, though, are pinned a lap down since they are part of the two-stop strategy.
Miller and Shackelford, in fact, coming into this round of the playoffs ranked in the bottom half based on the fact that neither of those drivers have been able to find victory lane this season. They may both, in fact, you mentioned with the team having really big issues, have to actually look at that mulligan racer, that wild card in Dega. It's an opportunity to turn things around. That's next Monday night back here on LSR TV and the iRacing Sports Network. But we get set for a race start with 116 laps down and 34 to go. With Donnie and Daniel Eberhardt, his strategy put him in front. Is he going to be able to hang on to this one? The field's in his hands as it's a slow 45 mile an hour roll out of turn 4. Watch for the tire spin on the concrete as they get going. And on road 2, not a lot of success. McBride holding up Horde and Company.
A bit better than the start, I have to say, though, for Horn, who had that higher line and already makes one pass. You see him get by the time machine, but the top two got a perfect jump. The teammates already up by 0.4 of a second over Chambliss as everyone stacks behind the 45.
And these passes off the get-go as RJ Williams pounded the wall out of turn number 4. The 3 of Jacoby is going to get on by. Frenage in the 8 car of Kamer there as well. You see the number 33 Tide car. It was a pretty big hit for RJ Williams into the fence, and I think he's still feeling that one now. Frenage gets around him down low, but fighting further towards the front of the field. Connor Horn gets around McBride.
Oh, trouble, front stretch. Williams in the wall. Williams and Jones spinning. And
Caution is out. He's slow on the outside. The field is going to get on through after Kamer gave him a shot in the left rear quarter panel, and it sent both of them into the inside wall. The LSR TV replay will show it and fight all the way back from the lap prior, but here's where Frenage clears. Thought Kamer was just going to tuck in line behind, and Williams smacks the wall, comes down. A bold with a huge hit somehow on the outside. That 4 car of Anthony Fredericks made it through.
Yeah, it just looked like a very slight tap in the left rear before he went up the racetrack. Kind of set that all up there, but it was just hard. I think it was mainly hard fought racing, but now significant damage, especially on the secondary car of Kamer, who was inside the top 10 before that incident. But that's going to help the drivers that took the wave and got back on the lead lap, especially Bazemore, and allows the opportunity for everyone else to lap down if most of the leaders duck down to get back on the lead lap in this race.
And it's funny to see this very short run, but a lot of race leaders coming down to the pit lane. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In fact, everybody top 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. They all come down pit road. So a very short run for the top cars. I thought somebody out of the top 5 at a lead lap would have been prone to trying to stay out, but instead they all decide to come down pit road. Do they all agree on what the decision on the pit lane is going to be? Eberhardt's going to go all the way down the pit stall number 2. Right side's going to go on first. Does he feel like he needs 4, or could he gamble on 2 with a clean air out front? He is going to go for that 4 tire call. Looks like as the race off for the pit lane is going to be close, that everybody goes for 4, and Eberhardt maintains P1.
I'm surprised everyone actually went for 4 with it just being about a 3-lap green flag run. But Horn has to let cars by. He got a black flag on the pit lane.
And that is not good for the 24 machine. Connor Horn was trying to get a little bit too much out of a drag race to the end of pit road, and he certainly was behind Chambliss, who appeared to be at pit road speed. And the 24 accelerated past him, maybe gave it a little bit too much, and if it is a speeding penalty that he was hit with, he will have to drop all the way to the end of the line. What a turnaround for a driver who some 15 laps ago thought that he was going to come from behind to win this on his strategy call.
It definitely was a speeding penalty at that cone. He tried to go as high as 39 miles an hour at the end of the pit lane. You can't do that. That was enough to trigger the black flag, and now it is Eberhardt and Jones, 1-2 again at the head of the field, with Chambliss, McBride, and Freenage inside that top 5 with just 28 laps to go this time by.
And the 24 is going to come down back to the pit lane anyways, just to top off and maybe do, get more tires on it for the end, because he's going to be all the way at the back anyway, so it's not going to make a difference for him. And because of the drivers looking for a wave around this time, Parrish, George, McClendon, O'Connell, and maybe Shackelford as well. That is going to be a long road to hoe in a very short amount of time. But again, very surprised that everybody who came down to the pit lane decided that they wanted to go with 4 tires. And I think that's mainly because, A, trying to get those tires to not spin on you off of the restart. It'll help, no doubt. 3-lap-old tires aren't going to restart as good as stickers. So I think that's mainly why drivers coming in. But also, even if you have that little bit extra bite for a lap or half a lap, whatever it is, when they're, brand new tires, I think that's also going to help drivers for a critical restart.
Yes, especially if they hope that this ends up going to the finish. If you're on those 2 tires and you don't have a good launch really, or get the clean air, you're a sitting duck. You'll end up losing tons and tons and tons of time on those 2 tires. It really only works if you're the leader. So basically everyone taking the 4 tires. But keep an eye on that for future pit stops if it continues to have a caution breed cautions type of situation as this race continues.
And what a win it would be if Daniel Eberhardt can turn this thing into a trip to victory lane. Made a limited schedule for this 2019 campaign, but is yet to even secure a top 10 for himself. Maybe he could prime himself to get a win tonight, and maybe that would spur him to make a full season effort either through the winter or going into 2020. It'll be him in control once again. He waited a long time and went awfully slow on the last restart. Jones on the outside of the front row. Chambliss, McBride third and fourth, and Freenage now replacing Horn rounds out your top 5 as the pace car drops down and in. And the RealSimRacing to Ford puts the right foot down much earlier this time as green flag is back in the air.
And that allows him to get a massive jump there. It's much more comfortable to get the launch at the corner exit while still in the banking than on that straightaway. Less wheel spin allows for you to get in the gas quicker, but they're 3 wide for 4th position.
And is this going to work? No, it's not. The 5 of McBride is sent into the outside wall. Caution flag is out for a playoff driver with more incidents late. We'll take a look at the LSR TV replay. You'll watch how this all forms down into turn 1. The 45 car and the 88 in their own battle. There's some contact. And watch this, at least the second time tonight, we've seen that 3 of Jacoby make it 3 wide. Freenage yields to the 3, pushes up into the 5, and McBride goes back end first into the fence.
That's significant back end damage there, but just that little tiny bit of contact as he pushed up ends up making things very interesting here. But as you mentioned, Jacoby's been very bold on those moves. Really the only person that's been willing to take it 3 wide all race long here at Dover, and while that's not going to be how we wanted that to go, obviously, he's up to 4th position. Freenage, though, ducking down to the lane as well as a couple of other drivers that took wave arounds that now can get fresh rubber.
McBride limps to pit road. He's obviously going to come in and try to get that car as repaired as possible, as well as put some tires on it. Well, we're under the caution flag. We'll take another quick opportunity to step aside. It won't come back for the restart. A lot of yellows late for the Monster Mile. Eberhardt is leading. You're watching the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series on the iRacing Esports Network.
Growing up as a kid in Oklahoma, where I'm from, the Chili Bowl is the biggest race that we have. The Chili Bowl has kind of been my favorite race of the year. Growing up a dirt racer in Oklahoma, that's kind of the holy grail.
Live from the Monster Mile with the lights out on top of the pace car as we get set to go green for another late race restart with 22 laps to go with the Monster Mile 150. Happy you're with us for LSR TV's continuing coverage of the 2019 Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. It is an early jump for the 90 car. Everhard Hill pace to turn 1.
Another good jump there again by the top two drivers. But they're seeing what they want to see, a fight for third position, slowing both the drivers up as Chambliss nearly pushed up into Jacoby's left front.
We know Jacoby's not going to be afraid to make those times to the back straight away, but is he going to get around Chambliss? He's got the run. He'll go back low, and the 45 puts a little bit of a block on him. Funny to behind. Horn, Stanford, everybody else in line as the 24 car tries to get back into the picture here, but there's a roadblock in front of him to turn 3.
Chambliss nearly tapped the outside wall, but he's not on the preferred line on this very short run. Jacoby going to be able to slide up for the position, but Horn already on the inside while Parrish nearly hit the inside wall down the front stretch.
He was all the way down there, but he's able to stay in it as this battle continues and Horn clears around the 45. So Chambliss loses out in that duo exchange of battles. Jacoby up to third, Horn to, or I should say Jacoby to second, Horn to third, and Chambliss back to P4, but not done yet. Here comes Stanford now. He'll dive to the inside in turn 1 to try to be the latest driver to get around the 45. Then Chambliss just trying to hang on to this thing, get a lot of very valuable points if he can maintain a top 5 spot.
Yeah, now he's just trying to hold on for that. Yes, remember, has that red spoiler, wants to try and get a good run in these playoffs now and get some good points. And now he's able to use that outside as a cushion now that it's started to switch a little bit with the tire wear and the aerodynamics. Meanwhile, the fight continues for 10th position, now behind George, as Bazemore continues to fall down that running order.
He continues to trickle down, and you can see all of the traffic here that he's going to find himself stuck in, and not going to get any easier inside of the final 20 laps as you see Dylan Jones closing in a battle for the race lead as he has closed the gap to the Nani car down to 2.5 tenths of a second. Here's the onboard shot. Nobody in front and nobody in between. Two drivers to go head-to-head. Jacoby watching on now from the number 4 spot as Horde gets around him for 3rd.
And this is going to get very curious now, what happens up in that front two especially. Again, as we've noted a couple times, both Aegis drivers, and as you noted, limited schedule for the 90 machine. Playoff driver for Dylan C. Jones. It will be curious to see what happens and if Horn in that Speedway Chevrolet can reel him in as well as bring Jacoby and the rest of the group up to the front for the race lead.
Horn was better than those two cars in front of him by about 1/10 of a second. If he could maintain that through the end of this race, he would close in and potentially make it a 3-way battle for the race lead. And if you're Eberhardt, all you came to do is win this race. You really don't care about finishing second. It'd be nice to get your first top 5 of the year, sure, but what he really wants is that trip to victory lane. So going up against somebody like that with nothing to lose, is Jones going to be more timid trying to make a pass on the 90, or is he going to feel like he could be a little bit more aggressive because the 90 doesn't have as much riding on this as he does? Again, there's a lot of points for P2, but second place does not give you a bye through the next 2 weeks. Again, one of which is Talladega, followed up by this round of 12 finale later from Kansas. So all of these things going through his mind as Horn chops another 10th out of that advantage. This time by 12 laps still to go.
And I definitely have to be worried if you're the top 2 with Horn, because he's been able to pick up some pace with the cleaner. Now he's getting inside the draft, though, of the 03 machine. So Dylan C. Jones, who we've talked about so much about his effort to make sure he got into the top 16 for the playoffs after starting at Richmond with the W. And now, just a couple car lengths behind Eberhardt, who is having the drive of his season in that 90 machine. Another fastest lap time by Horn, though. Another 10th eaten up.
And now with the 03 machine, Jones actually dropping off the back of Eberhardt quite some. Horn's primary objective now is going to be making this pass on the 03 ASAP. 10 laps to go now from the Monster Mile with non-playoff driver Daniel Eberhardt leading the way. Jones and Horn fighting in a battle for second and third as these drivers look to make a splash to kick off this round of 12. Connor Horn, race winner from the previous round, at a very small 3-point bump coming into tonight. But both of these drivers want to go for the race win. I don't know if both of them are fast enough. I think Jones doesn't have the consistency he needs. With the 24 catching up to him, he's picked the pace back up a little bit, but Eberhardt's getting further and further away.
Eberhardt, from what I've seen throughout the race today, has been better on the short run. Horn has been better in clean air and now wants to try and rip second away from Jones. Again, though, it's so difficult to make the move or even time it up properly with that dirty air, making it a bit more tighter and much more aero push to try and make a pass. Horn, if he wants any chance, if this goes green, to make the move for the race win, he's going to need to get by Jones within a lap and then push as hard as he can. He would only have maybe one shot to do it.
He's on the bumper now. How long can he afford to sit and play with the 03 car fighting for second? He backs up the corner a lot. He'll make a dive on the exit at turn number 2. Here comes Connor Horn to the inside in a fight for second position. He gets nose to nose with them, but it has been so hard for cars to complete passes down low all night, and this is going to be the same story.
Yeah, he went all the way down to the apron that time, now making contact.
He's not got time to sit around. He's got to move him up and out of the way. Connor Horn's got a race win to fight for, but did that small one-lap delay in deciding to go for the bump and run cost him too much time. This time through, 5 laps to go from Dover, and the advantage for Daniel Eberhard is 7/10.
That's the main concern. He lost a couple tenths trying to fight with Jones even before that contact. He's going to need to close in at least a couple tenths a lap to have a shot here. I don't know if he can do it if this continues to stay green. Eberhard's got a major cushion in that clean air of now of 7/10 of a second.
And it is only a small chunk that comes out of it. Connor Horn is really going to need to find something extra. This thing is still going to be decided in the closing lap. 16 cars on the lead lap, funny deep into pack sees Frinage, who's had quite the turnaround, trying to make a pass for 11th position. Here's that group back there. Shackelford fighting it with Blake O'Connell for one of the final spots inside of the top 10. So there are positions up for grabs all throughout as Connor Horn takes a tenth out of Eberhard's advantage, but it is still half a second as this time by they look for 2 laps to go.
Yeah, he put in a great lap to get within the draft, but that's the problem. He's within it. Another 10th gained off the corner with a better run using the bottom side, but he's going to need to hope that Eberhard makes his first mistake of the day if he has any chance to reel in that 90 machine that's been having the drive of the season with so much bad luck, so many incidents, so many good runs that have gone for naught. Coming to the white flag, he's having the drive of 2019 for him.
Connor Horn still faster, but not by enough. And as Eberhard rounds 1 and 2 for the final time, he looks to become the first non-playoff driver to get a win this postseason and play spoiler, but in his own regard, to get his first win at 2019. Eberhard going to return to Full Throttle Cup victory lane, taking the checkered tonight from the Monster Mile.
And it's been a long time coming. He's had some good runs. If you think back to the start of the season, tracks such as Atlanta, he was in the picture to try and win the race before crashing. But now, finally able to put in a complete race. Got some luck at the start with the wheel spin of Horn, got clean air early, and had the strategy go the right way with the one stopper, giving him enough of a jump and enough positions to keep him in that clean air the rest of the way when the yellow flag started flying.
At a long overdue celebration for Daniel Eberhard, the first time this year in his 15th start that he gets a top 10 finish, let alone a trip to victory lane. And good to see the Donny machine have overcome a rocky start to the season, and he'll park it right there. Daniel Eberhard, your race winner tonight from Dover International Speedway. We'll step aside for one final time, and when we come back, we'll recap the round of 12 opener, talk with your top finishers to get you set for a trip to Talladega next Monday night. You're watching LSR TV's coverage of the 2019 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health. Post-race action coming up next on the iRacing Esports Network.
Simulated racing can be awesome, but it can also be kind of a free-for-all. Interestingly, auto racing faced the same problem in its earlier days. Whether it was on the back roads, the beaches, or the city streets, the racing was always fun. But there was always a certain level of chaos or danger until some folks came along and put some order to all of this. Stuff like official racetracks, regulations about weight and equipment, and enforcement of standards. That's what gave us high-speed excitement, fast-paced action, and photo finishes. That's when racing became racing. The guys over at iRacing.com have made the same transformation in the world of sim racing. See, iRacing analyzes the performance and results of each driver in every race, so you can be sure you're always placed in races where the competition will be tight and that those reckless drivers who ruin it for us all will be kept in the pits. Not to mention that with members in over 130 countries already in their vast community, you can find races day and night, so you can always get in the action. You can even join a league of your favorite series and work your way up to one of 7 world championships, offering over $500,000 in prize money. And since updates are always automatic, You don't have to worry about software and can focus on the track. Zip up your fire suit and check out iRacing.com.
This is Jim Beaver, voice of the Lucas Oil Off-Road Racing Series. Introducing Pro 2 and Pro 4 trucks on iRacing. Game on!
And back live from the virtual Dover International Speedway, where LSR TV's coverage of the 2019 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health, continued tonight with the Monster Mile 150 and the round of 12 opener. As we welcome you back into the LSR TV booth, Evan Pasoko, Justin Prince, and Randy Chettis with you. We'll go trackside, talk with your top finishers in just a moment. Before we do so, let's recap tonight, look top to bottom at tonight's Ford Entertainment Group full race results. Daniel Eberhardt heads to victory lane for the first time this season. He is able to hang on over top Connor Horn, who is the top finishing playoff driver. Dylan Jones comes home third, and we'll be trackside with all of them in just a few moments. Jason Jacoby comes home fourth tonight, and Ryan Chambliss rounds out that top five and hangs on for that great points night. Eric Stanford finishes in sixth position with Rick McBride in seventh. That battle went all the way down to the last lap, along with Thomas George in eighth position, Scott McClendon ninth, and Andrew Frenage, after late troubles, rounds out your top 10.
David Washington came away 11 tonight, ran around that point much of the day, just in front of Andrew T. Jones in the running order, who came away in 12. Jeremy Bazemore started in the top 10 on the last restart, dropped though to 13th at the checker flag. Anthony Fredericks finished 14th, and the last car on the lead lap was Blake O'Connell. The rest of the drivers one lap or more down. Shane Parrish 16th, Skylar Shackelford a rough race in 17th. Matt Miller came away 18th, with Scott Brotherton 19th. 8 laps down for Kyle Kamer. He rounded out the top 20.
And continuing on through 21st position in this one was Jeremy E. Miller. Had some late contact in this race that puts a damper on his opening to this second round of the playoffs as he finishes 9 laps down. Sean Kalis was 10 back in 22nd. Rest of the cars behind the fence. R.J. Williams 23rd. Jonathan Cadell 24th, and Todd Novosadapi 25. John Fowler finishes 26th, and it is Caleb Weekly all the way back some 100 laps short of the scheduled distance. He finishes in 27th and rounds out our field. That's been a look top to bottom at the Ford Entertainment Group of full race results. FEGPC has been serving the iRacing community with custom-built affordable computers specifically built and tuned for iRacing. Your PC will come with everything you need preloaded so you can get racing as soon as it hits your doorstep. Get yours today and join the over 600 iRacers already enjoying a Ford Entertainment Group build. PCs to fit every budget from $540 and up. More info, log on to www.fegpc.net and mention code LSRTV10 to get your builds quoted today. Let's head down to Dover International Speedway Victory Lane, where we are stood by with the driver of the number 90 car. Daniel Everhart is back in RealSimRacing Victory Lane. Daniel, congratulations on the win. Seems like so many times this year you had fast race cars and it just did not work out. Tonight, a different story.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time coming. I mean, all season, and then I went on a little hiatus for a little while, and coming back, it's taken a while. It just feels like it's taken forever to get back to victory lane. I just haven't felt competitive with this car. I mean, the car actually is absolutely terrible. I mean, there's no change to it. There's no anything, and I just can't adapt to it. And I mean, but that's what race car drivers have to do, is adapt. Sim racers also, we got to adapt to day-to-day changes, you know, what's going on in real life, and I just haven't been able to adapt to something that just feels locked down to the ground.
What we heard over the weekend, with drivers of the Monster Energy Series talking about Dover, obviously it drives a lot differently than what it used to. Center of the corner speed was a big change. What was it, though, about this combination that allowed you to find success? Because it wasn't just the fact that we had that late yellow that kind of shuffled up the strategy and a couple of restarts. That's not why you won. You didn't just happen to lock into this fast car all night.
The biggest thing to me this week has been passing. There's not really any passing. I mean, Connor Horn was behind me that first half of that run at the beginning, and he couldn't pass me. I mean, I could do anything I wanted to with him because I knew that I could hold him down fast enough, down to the bottom and be fast enough through the outer edge of the racetrack to, pull him off the straightaway. There was no passing all week long in NIS. And, tonight it's just been, luck of the draw, and it's all about qualifying in this car, it feels like, unless you go to, like, a place like Vegas. At this track, to me, at my discretion of this track would be, I would want 750 horsepower up under my hood instead of, whatever we got now. It's just not, it's just dull coming off the corners. I just wish we could figure out something to make it where it's back in our hands a little bit more.
And certainly you took advantage of, I think, knowing those circumstances. You get that good Q effort, and then obviously to get going right off at the start, looked like Connor really spun his tires there on the drop of the green flag, and that's why you got in front of him. You seem to be able to control the later restarts to not make that same mistake.
Yeah, it's all about getting a good restart on the, if you're starting on the outside, because we're starting double file, it's pretty tough coming off the corner and then being on the straightaway here. I don't know if it's because of the banking down the straightaways just makes the car slip and slide. I don't really understand it that much, but I just started off in second gear. A lot of people have been starting off in first, but I started off in second and just rolled in the throttle and beat him into turn one. And then, being the leader, you can predict when you want to go, and you can, mess the field up a little bit and stuff like that, like going on the straightaways and stuff. So you have to pick and choose your battles with the restart game because a lot of people don't like it, and I'm one of them. I don't care for the restart game. I'd much rather have a restart box, but this is sim racing, and we can't just have all the things real life does.
So you get your first win of the season, and I think more broadly, the first win that you're really proud of in this 2019 campaign. You got what you wanted, and obviously you're able to fight through to make this one a complete effort. To be able to, be the playoff spoiler tonight, Connor, looking for that free pass through the chaos that may ensue next week. You take it away with that. Is that the objective for the remaining starts you make in 2019, is to go out there and take race wins away from guys and let them know that you're still a threat on Monday nights?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to run the rest of the season, here to win races, and, I want to be a team player, but I'm also out here to win myself, and, I'll do anything to back my teammates up, and I love them all to death, but I'm out here just to win just like each and every one of them, so that's what I want to do the rest of the season. I'd like to go to Talladega and win it. I love plate racing, but plate racing just is not my friend for some reason at the end of these league races. I can win in, a fixed series race at nighttime or anything like that, but I just cannot seem to clinch off a plate track win at Daytona or Talladega in this league for some reason. So I'm hoping to do that because it's something I really love doing. But to be honest with you, we do it each and every week now with this car. So, I mean, it's no different than running at Las Vegas a couple weeks ago.
Well, we'll see if this trip to Victory Lane tonight can spur some good fortune, and maybe the Talladega gods will be nice to you next Monday night. Daniel, though, at Victory Lane tonight from the Monster Mile. I know it's been a long road back to this point. Anybody you want to say hi to? Well, if you got you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all my teammates, Eric Stanford, Kamer, Dave Washington, Andrew, Carl Shedd, Dylan Jones, and Shane Parrish, and even throw Stephen Durham in there. They're all great people, and I'd like to thank my girlfriend who watches each and every one of these races. I know sometimes it can be miserable because I usually wreck out of them at the end just trying to give it all I have. So thank her for that, and thank the good Lord above for giving me a life that I can do this and other things outside of this with each and every day.
We appreciate your support of the series, Daniel. We appreciate your time again tonight post-race. Congrats on the victory, and hopefully for the Donnie car, we see a couple more of these before we're done this year.
Thanks, Ev.
The race winner tonight from the Monster Mile, Daniel Eberhardt, first win 2019. And the big factor in that conversation was that he played spoiler tonight because, man, a race win would have meant a lot for the driver who came home second this evening. Connor Horn, a runner-up at East Trackside with Justin.
Yes, indeed. I believe Horn is dealing with a quick technical issue here at the moment. But he was trying to push and push hard, Evan, for that position. We'll give him a second to get his equipment together. Connor, do you hear us? I guess that's a no. Apologies for that there, Evan.
Yeah, we'll try to get that sorted out, and in the meantime, we will try to step one spot further down to pit road and see if we can catch up with the driver of the 03 machine, Dylan Jones, who comes home at a podium tonight from the Dover International Speedway. Dylan, congratulations. I know that it seemed like late in this race, after we thought it was going to go green the distance, that a couple of playoff drivers found themselves in late race incidents, so does that make this P3 that much more important?
I think the tracks we're coming to makes the P3 even more important, but yeah, there's definitely a few contenders there that I guess had problems throughout the race, so we did a good job taking advantage of it, I guess, there.
And you mentioned Talladega next up, or alluded to it. Obviously, that's the main concern coming into this evening, because removed from the round of 16, bonus points carrying over from performances in the regular season gave drivers a little bit of a boost, you included, and some guys like Andrew a huge advantage. But when we reset to this round, those bonus points were only available to drivers who won in the round of 16. So despite the fact that you don't get those bonus points, the guys that do are only 3 points up. So it is a much smaller margin for error. And with Dega next week, did you practice any extra for this week, knowing that you could finish P3 tonight as you do, but a bad finish next week kind of negates any good that it was accomplished this evening?
We put in a little practice, probably not as much as we should have, because I don't think we're quite up to pace there, even for P3. But yeah, just came in tonight, making sure we didn't get wrecked like a few guys did, because next week should be interesting.
So based on this finish, as opposed to wrecking out and then kind of having to flip the script on Talladega maybe being your saving grace as opposed to a potential landmine, with this good result, does that change how you approach that 2.66 mile super speedway next week?
I don't know, because every time I try to take it easy there, I still end up junked somehow. But I think next week it's going to be guys that are maybe down in the back that don't have as much of a chance at these 1.5 miles. This is where they can make up ground. So that's what really makes the race interesting next week out of anything.
We look forward to seeing how it plays out, and certainly hope that we can have a lot of race cars still on track by the end of the night, so it's a compelling finish, Dylan. But you did your job tonight. You get a P3, put yourself in a good spot, headed into the great unknown. Sponsors and shout-outs who makes it happen.
Thanks to all the drivers out there tonight. It was a relatively clean race there. And everyone at LSR TV for doing what you guys do.
We appreciate you being in the series, Dylan, and again, thanks for giving us some time. Congrats on the good finish, and fingers crossed the next Monday night goes pretty good.
Yeah, thanks.
The third place finisher this evening at Dover, and now we will go back to the driver of the 24, Connor Horn, who's got that sorted out just and coming home second tonight.
Connor, do you have a copy, sir?
I finally do. How about that?
You came away second tonight after starting on the pole and leading a lot of the laps tonight. Talk us through how you felt your race went tonight.
Just like the spring race, just one spot short. 2 second places kind of sucks. I thought I had it in the bag. I pretty much did if it went green, and then chaos started happening. My teammate of all people didn't give me the lane out of 4, and for some reason pinched me even after we were already on the front stretch. So I turned him. I didn't mean to, but he was just going so slow because he was on a different strategy, and he already was down laps, and he should have just given me the room, but he didn't. That is what it is. And then just like the spring race, Kalis brings out the yellow that changes everything. I think I ended up like 6th on that restart. I think I then got up to 4th, and then I sped. And the speeding penalty was really what killed my realistic chance at a win. I think I was fine even with the contact with Jeremy, but I got up to everyone. I went back through there. I think I needed 10 more laps, and I could have gotten to Daniel, but I just didn't have that 10 laps.
Yeah, you actually moved Dylan C. Jones up the racetrack into 1, how hard you were pushing there. The gap basically settled for a few laps at 0.7 of a second. How difficult was it, though, to try and, as you mentioned, reel back in Daniel and whatever other positions? Because a lot of drivers throughout the entire week in various different series, fixed and open, have talked about dirty air being so difficult to deal with.
Yeah, what sucked, it was only going to be like a 20-lap run to the end from that spot, so I know the outside lane comes in on the long runs, and there wasn't really enough time for that line to come in, and I was trying everything. Like, the last 2 laps or so, I was running the outside gaining time, but just a bit too late, as I said. I got by Chambliss. Jacoby fortunately let me by. That was nice of him. And I knew Dylan wasn't going to let me by, but after him brake checking me at Richmond and just racing me really dumb, I didn't really have any regard for him. So I just sent him up the track. I had no time to wait. I had to go for the win. I was faster than him, and I just moved him. I'm not sorry about that. The only thing I'm sorry for is wrecking Jeremy, even though I don't think that was my fault either, and accidentally hit McBride at some point. That was my fault as well, but it was just really tough. Dirty air is the reason I couldn't get by Eberhardt early in that run, and obviously I had the terrible initial start, which wasn't good. I thought I was going to wreck it right there, but luckily I kept it straight. I kept it partially clean, and I still came home second.
With a non-playoff driver taking the checker flag, no one punches their ticket quite yet to the round of 8, but the next race is at Talladega, where the big one could happen at any time. Your thoughts heading into the middle portion of the round of 12?
Yeah, when it was green and I was in the lead, I was hoping it went green because I didn't want to deal with Dega, but here we are. No one's safe, like as you said, and there's a lot of guys that are really good about all that stuff. I think it's going to be difficult on strategy, who stays up front all race and who stays in the back. I'm not sure what my whole team's going to do. All of us still have to get through. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting what goes on. I'm just hoping we can get through any wrecks that happen. It's going to be tough, but you got to do your best.
Before we let you go, is there anyone you want to thank for being a part of your second place finish this evening?
Yeah, everyone, my teammates, Brian Chambliss, who had a good run, Skylar Shackelford, Jeremy Miller. Obviously, like I said, it's unfortunate what happened with Jeremy, but it is what it is. No room at Dover, and obviously Speedway for everything they do for our team, and just came up 1 spot short once again, but it is what it is. We'll go on to Dega.
Congratulations to the top 3. We'll see what you can do at the restrictor plate, at the last restrictor plate race, or super speedway race, rather, I should say. Got to get out of that force of habit at Talladega.
You call it a tapered spacer race if you want, but I don't think that works too well. You do, Justin.
Yes, indeed. Connor Horn coming away second tonight. Evan, back to you.
A big thanks, Connor, as well, Daniel and Dylan, for giving us some time here post-race. Congrats to them again for coming home first, second, and third tonight. And we do have a look at the championship standings as we head out of this evening. It is, of course, the drivers below the cut line is the big point of contention. Shackelford, Kamer, Miller, and Cadell are the drivers below the cut line.
Yes, indeed, and Connor Horn actually in the lead of the point standings. Jacoby with that good run, just 3 points back, but that cut line is going to be very crazy. Cadell, good on the super speedways if he keeps the car clean. Miller needing a good rebound race, already nearly a full event behind. Kamer usually works well with the Aegis cars. Expect them to be at the back maybe until the final quarter of the race again. Shackelford needs some kind of luck as well in that race. So anything can happen, though. That's the thing. One bad corner, one bad mistake, and your playoffs are out the window.
And that could happen for drivers, and maybe even at no fault of their own. When we go racing at Talladega Super Speedway next Monday night. But until then, that's it for us here tonight. From Dover, round number 27 falls into our rear view mirror. Encourage you to stay up to date with us by going online to RealSimRacing.com and by engaging with us on social media. You can like us at Facebook at Facebook.com/LSRTV official, and by following us on Twitter at LSRTV for more. But until next time, on behalf of the entire team at LSRTV, the folks behind the scenes, and for your broadcast team tonight, for myself, Evan Pasoko, for Justin Prince, and our producer, Randy Cheneth, want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Daniel Everhart on his first race win of 2019. We continue to march forward to maybe the most contentious race of the playoffs, Talladega, next Monday. That one coming on October the 14th. That race and every race of this 2019 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, powered by Sim Racers for Mental Health, can be found right here on LSR TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from the Monster Mile.